Here are 5 amazing benefits of a carnivore diet, all meat diet. You burn a lot of fat because you keep glucose and insulin low, and that is the key to weight loss. Brain fog goes away. You got mental clarity. Why? Because your body produces ketones on a carnivore diet.
Since going carnivore, I have watched every single one of my Lyme disease symptoms that I've been experiencing the last 15 years completely go away.
Everybody got either better or significantly better with regards to knee pain, sleep quality, digestive health, skin health, libido, all these things just improve.
If you suffer from severe daily anxiety, then you need to know that thousands of people around the world are using the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs challenge, the carnivore diet, to greatly improve their anxiety. In many cases, getting off all their anti-anxiety medications. You can do this too. Carnivore diet fixes everything. Gout, gone. Allergies, gone. Fungal toenail infection, clear. Keto, carnivore will help clear up your toenail fungus. They will help clear up your dandruff.
Breakfast is a fresh stick of butter. So good.
And I'm feeling.
Hello there, my lemon babies, and welcome back to the Lemonade Stand, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brianna. I'm a certified personal trainer, a big, huge biology nerd, and a registered dietitian to be. Currently a dietetic intern in my last rotation. And today we are finally talking about the carnivore diet. The fad diet, because yes, it is a fad diet in my opinion, that will single-handedly cause more cardiovascular disease-related deaths than the can of Crisco collecting dust in the back of your mother's pantry. Before we proceed, if you love science-based health, wellness, and fitness education with some lulz and lots of dry sarcasm, why not hit that subscribe button and join the Lemonade Stand, because I would just truly love to have you here. All right, without further ado, let's make lemonade. So we've talked about the carnivore diet before in previous videos. In a lot of those videos, I featured carnivore diet zealots in the produce section of the grocery store screaming about how vegetables are bad for you. But I have not yet dedicated a full video to it, and this has been requested by a lot of people, so here we go. The carnivore diet. Carnivore diet, as the name suggests, is a predominantly meat-based diet. I have personally seen iterations of it that involve other animal products like eggs and butter as well. Some people who eat carnivore may eat some veggies, but from what I've seen, a majority of people who adhere to the carnivore diet completely cast away all plants and other carbohydrate-rich foods such as rice and potatoes. We've even seen a lot of people straight up condemn vegetables, saying that they're bad for your health.
You reset your gut by removing all these anti-nutrients like lectins and phytates and oxalates found in plants.
And meat is the only way to go. Imagine that. Imagine broccoli being bad for your health. So the carnivore diet as we know it today is not necessarily new, but it hasn't always been called the carnivore diet. In fact, the concept of an all-meat diet can be traced back at least to the 1800s. A New York physician named James Henry Salisbury was working within a Union camp during the Civil War, where he witnessed a lot of illness among the soldiers. Illnesses such as dysentery brought on by bacterial infections were extremely rampant. Couple that with the horrendous hygiene of Civil War medical practitioners and soldiers alike, and communicable disease was just as much of a threat as gunfire. So I guess Dr. Salisbury was sitting back and just absorbing all of the debilitating illness that he was witnessing. And he concluded that the dysentery, which by the way, dysentery is an infection of your GI tract, and it causes, among other things, explosive diarrhea and gastrointestinal pain. So he concluded that the dysentery that was causing everybody's explosive bathroom experience was the result of fruits and vegetables fermenting and causing illness, not bacteria. In fact, Dr. Salisbury believed that only 1/3 of one's entire diet should come from fruits and vegetables, and any more than that would cause you severe illness. He also thought that because us humans have carnivorous teeth, that means that we are meant to eat exclusively meat. Just so everybody knows, us humans actually have omnivorous teeth that help us eat both plants and animals. Our sharp incisors in the front of our mouths help us tear and rip meat, and the molars in the back of our mouths help us grind up and chew tough fibrous plants. So technically our mouths are made for both plants and animals, just saying. So after the war, he published his findings, and he declared that his research indicated that a predominantly meat and low carbohydrate diet was the cure for many illnesses. He also detailed how to get started on this diet. Beef steaks, known now today as Salisbury steaks. They had to be the leanest possible cuts of steak, and you could also enjoy it with a side of seafood like fish or oysters, or you could have a side of turkey as well. And you were supposed to precede this meaty harvest with hot water. Also, fun fact, Dr. Salisbury is technically the creator of Salisbury steaks, but He actually didn't initially call them Salisbury steaks himself. It was actually another physician later on down the line who started calling them Salisbury steaks after Dr. Salisbury. And in the beginning, it was just a ground beef patty, like a lump of hamburger meat. But as time went on and as it passed through more creative minds, it became what we now know it as today, as it's traditionally served in the United States anyway, with like a beef patty that kind of is in the shape of a steak, and it's covered with mushrooms and gravy. So that's one origin story of the carnivore diet that I came across in my research. The other one that you probably heard more commonly pushed by carnivore diet zealots is all about how the carnivore diet is primal. And being primal is the only way to achieve good health. Defenders of the carnivore diet assert that because our early human ancestors presumably ate a diet mostly of meat and limited plants, then we should too, because they had lower rates of chronic disease. And look, they ate mostly meat and they barely ate any plants. Therefore, they were much healthier, and that is the only way to be healthy. Never mind the fact that our early human ancestors typically didn't even live long enough for chronic diseases such as cancer to even set in. They ate just about anything they could to survive the day, and they frequently dropped dead of illnesses that would be very easily treatable today. This assertion also ignores the changes to our genes and how they interact and behave in our environment. These are known as epigenetic changes. From the CDC, epigenetics is a study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. And also, before we move on, I just want to say, on the day that I'm filming this, which is Sunday, February 18th, this morning when I woke up, I was kind of on my phone and I was just, looking at news. And this article popped up, or I think my Google homepage, SciTech Daily. Rewriting history. Groundbreaking new research reveals that early human diets were primarily plant-based. And I just want to say, I haven't read through the article, but I did read. I'll read you guys the top part of one of the headings. Recent research challenges the traditional view of early human diets in the Andes, suggesting a shift from hunter-gatherers to gatherer-hunters. The study analyzing remains from the Willamaya, oh goodness, I'm going to butcher these names, PATJXA, and Soro Mikaya, PATJXA, sites in Peru, reveals an 80% plant-based and 20% meat diet among early Andeans. This finding, based on isotope chemistry and statistical modeling, contradicts previous beliefs and influences current perceptions of diets such as the paleo diet. It also indicates a need to reassess archaeological frameworks globally. Full disclosure, I did not read this whole article, but it just felt very telling that I saw this article on the day that I was planning on filming this video. So, my God, wait until the carnivore zealots hear about this. They are not going to be happy. Anywho, but what, if any, are the benefits of the carnivore diet? Like I said before, the carnivore diet is, in my opinion, 100% a fad diet. And it has developed what I've observed to be a cult-like following. And I know the word cult gets thrown around a lot. I really do, you guys. But I feel like that's the best word that I can use to describe how a lot of people treat this diet and being on this diet. I follow several nutrition professionals on social media, and a lot of them have spent a lot of time debunking the nonsense that carnivore diet zealots push. And they spend time sharing the realities of the diet, which we will get into. And the realities of following an all meat, no vegetable diet are unsurprisingly not pretty. Yet visit the comment section under any one of those posts. Like, find a nutrition professional. Some of my favorites are Bio Lane, Dr. Adrian Chavez, my friend Abby Langer. Find any one of their posts in which they're debunking some carnivore diet misinformation. Guarantee that you will find several comments from carnivore diet saying things like, the science is wrong, you don't need vegetables to be healthy, you don't need fiber to be healthy, a meat-only diet made me healthier, I feel better since cutting out vegetables, I lost so much weight since cutting out vegetables and carbs. They do not care about the science that's being presented to them. So you see why I'm calling it cult-like. Like, they don't care about the evidence and the science. In their mind, the science is wrong and carnivore is right. Period. But do any of those claims hold any water? Why do so many people feel better on the carnivore diet? Why do so many people lose a lot of weight on the carnivore diet? Well, there are very plausible explanations for all of these things. And spoiler, none of these explanations are because an all-meat diet is good for you, because it's not. Allow me to explain and justify my explanations and personal theories with legitimate science-backed research. Why does everybody lose weight on the carnivore diet? That lady lost 75 pounds in 6 months on the carnivore diet, therefore it must be good. Well, not necessarily. When it comes to fat loss, it's all about energy balance. Calories in, Calories out. And honestly, anyone that tries to tell you otherwise does not understand science, and they're probably also trying to sell you something. Now, because I know the comments are coming, yes, there are other factors that influence our body fat and fat loss. We could talk all day long about hormonal fluctuations, medications, and how much genetics influence our fat loss and fat distribution. But today, we're staying general and we're staying basic because at its core, for most people, fat loss comes from an energy deficit. Are we good? We clear? Can we move on? Good. The standard American diet, also known as the Western diet, is, in short, terrible. It's high in sodium, saturated fat, excessive fried, greasy foods, added sugar, excessive sugar-sweetened beverages, and heavily processed and high-calorie food products. And it is very, very low in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and fiber. In fact, about 90% of adults do not eat enough plants in their diet. The United States Department of Agriculture estimates that only 11% of the standard American diet consists of whole grains, beans, fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Additionally, on top of the standard American diet being the most predominant diet eaten in the West, hence why it's called the standard American diet, a majority of Americans are also sedentary and do not get the CDC recommended amount of physical activity. Only about 24% of American adults meet the physical activity guidelines set forth by the CDC for aerobic and muscle strengthening exercise. So based on the standard American diet, a typical day of eating for most Americans probably does not involve breakfast. And if it does, the breakfast is probably something like a cup of coffee and like a high fat, high sugar, highly palatable pastry, like a donut or something like that. There's probably a serving or two of fast food in there. And there's probably a lot of snacking on high fat, high calorie, sugary food products, maybe more things like donuts, pastries, cookies. And then a very large dinner, likely involving a dish that's very high in calories and excessive in sodium, maybe topped off by a very high calorie, high sugar dessert. If you haven't picked up on it, a common denominator in the standard American diet is the prevalence of high fat, high calorie foods like cookies and cakes and pastries, and even foods that are still processed but not as badly processed, other carbohydrates like our grains like rice, bread, and pasta. So what does all of this have the potential of culminating to when consumed in excess? Chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity. And this right here is the reason why so many people demonize sugar. The standard American diet is very, very high in those refined carbohydrates that are really high in added sugar and really high in fats. Cake, cookies, pastries, donuts, coffee cake. I love coffee cake. These foods are highly palatable. They taste really good. Sodium is a flavor enhancer, so that it makes the food taste really good. Fats give these foods a really creamy texture, and that's really pleasing to our mouths. And these foods are usually really, really easy to overconsume. Like, how easy is it to eat an entire bag of potato chips just sitting on the couch while you're watching TV? Or eat a whole bag of like Hershey Kisses? Additionally, even though these foods are really high in calories, they're very low in nutritional value, and they're also not usually filling either. Sidebar. Please note that I'm emphasizing consuming these foods in excess. I'm using the word excess a lot. I will never, ever, ever tell you guys that eating a cookie or a donut is bad, because it's not. At my hospital where I'm currently doing my clinical rotation, Wednesday is Warm Cookie Wednesday, and I am all about those chocolate chips. But you know what else I also enjoy? Always water throughout the day, sometimes with my lunch a diet soda, which is a perfectly fine alternative to full sugar soda. Whichever protein the cafeteria is making that day, which is usually either chicken or salmon, a serving of starch like brown rice or potatoes, and then I get another serving of hot vegetables on the side. The key here is balance, and that's going to be the biggest takeaway, honestly, from this entire video. Balance. If you only eat a diet of cookies and pizza and ice cream, I sure hope you like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. However, if you occasionally enjoy cookies and pizza and ice cream in moderation alongside a wholesome balanced diet that also includes fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean meats, and a variety of nutrient-dense foods that you enjoy, then that cookie and pizza and ice cream is perfectly okay. And that is how you set yourself up for health and lowering your risk of chronic disease. Anyway, so what so many people get wrong is, especially these carnivore diet zealots and these keto zealots, because they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Carbohydrates on their own are not inherently more fattening or unhealthy than any other macronutrient. 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. A calorie is a unit of measurement. 1 calorie is equal to 1 calorie. Now, even though a calorie is a calorie, because it's just a unit of energy, there is a discussion to be had about the nutritive value of 1 calorie of Oreos and 1 calorie of broccoli. So yes, there is a difference in nutrient value depending on where those calories are come from, but speaking strictly in terms of energy, a calorie is equal to a calorie. Putting a lot of caveats on things today because I just know what the comment section is going to feel like under this video.
There is no link between sugar consumption and health as long as calories are not excessive, you're meeting your protein and fat needs, and the diet is mostly healthy, unprocessed food.
This is completely and utterly correct. Times cool. Now, there is a lot of data showing that the more sugar you eat, the higher your risk of death from cardiovascular and other diseases, but this is because those who eat more sugar are eating more calories overall and gaining weight. When you control for total calories, like in this study which I've covered in my upcoming book, where women consumed 1100 calories and one group had 118 grams of pure table sugar every day for 6 weeks, the other group just had 11 grams. Both groups improved their body weight, blood pressure, body fat and blood lipids, as well as improvements in depression, hunger and mood. Not just that, but meta-analyses of 25 studies show that when calories are equated, whether you have fructose, high fructose corn syrup, glucose or sucrose, it has no significant effect on most cardiometabolic markers. Even in studies that overfeed sugar or fats, there's no differences in body fat. So there is nothing uniquely problematic about sugar. The issue is what is displaced from the diet. If you're consuming lots of hyperpalatable foods with high sugar, fat and salt, like cakes, biscuits, donuts, etc., then you will likely overconsume calories because they're so damn tasty. When you overconsume these calories, not only do you miss out on nutrient-rich foods, you then increase body fat and all of the issues that come with increased adiposity, like inflammation, cancer and heart disease. So don't be scared of sugar, just understand that excess calories and a lack of nutrients is the issue. Glass is missed.
Anyway, but what all this comes down to is energy balance. When people switch to eating carnivore, they're usually cutting out all of these foods. High fat, high calorie, high in added sugar, refined carbohydrates. And when they cut out all of these foods, they're automatically cutting out a lot of their daily calories. If we assume that they were probably eating a standard American diet, which statistically there's a high chance many of them were, and then they shift to carnivore, they probably cut their daily calories down by 500 to 1,000, maybe even 1,500 calories a day. And that is why they lose weight. Not because carnivore is superior for weight loss, it's because they've reduced their energy intake. Something else that I've seen a lot of people report on the carnivore diet is just generally feeling better, especially in terms of their gastrointestinal issues. Well, I have a strong theory about this, but I did not come up with it entirely on my own. Dr. Adrian Chavez planted the seed in my stupid little head about this theory. I went on to do more research and then I formed my own opinion about it. So like I said, the other commonality that I see a lot of people who embark on the carnivore diet is they had a lot of unresolved GI issues that they just couldn't get under control. Gas, persistent bloating, diarrhea, things like that. I've even seen people with IBS who say that the carnivore diet cured their IBS. So here's my theory, and I feel it's a strong one. The reason I believe that those GI symptoms improve on the carnivore diet is because since it's usually an all meat and no plant diet, they're cutting out a lot of the foods which can often cause GI issues in people with IBS or just GI sensitivities. They're basically, albeit unintentionally, going on an extreme no FODMAP diet. What are FODMAPs? FODMAP, F-O-D-M-A-P, is an acronym. It means fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. FODMAP foods are short-chain carbohydrates that are not absorbed very well in the small intestine, and they can cause a lot of negative GI symptoms in some people. Examples of FODMAP foods are vegetables like onions, mushrooms, asparagus, some fruits like apples, mangoes, cherries, wheat, barley, rye, certain snack products, sweeteners like honey, some dairy products like milk and yogurt, and also legumes. I didn't even name every food that falls into the FODMAP category, but that's already a lot of foods that most people probably consume at least in some capacity every day, especially if you eat a standard American diet. So if you eat a standard American diet, which most Americans probably do, and you have sensitivities to any of these foods, it's not really hard to see how cutting them out by going on a carnivore diet can actually seemingly resolve your GI issues and make you feel better. If you notice, not one single FODMAP food is meat. So if you're someone who's sensitive to FODMAPs and you switch to carnivore diet and start feeling better, that's probably why. Because if you're on a carnivore diet, you're not eating those foods anymore. And FYI, that's not me advocating for carnivore diet. Carnivore diet is absolutely terrible for your health, and I will prove it shortly. But in the meantime, if you think you're sensitive to FODMAPs, do your best to get with a licensed healthcare professional and discuss with them perhaps embarking on a low or no FODMAP diet and seeing how you feel. You may even be able to collaborate with a registered dietitian. Yay! Then there are those of the carnivore camp who just hate all things carbohydrates and basically embark on the carnivore diet as kind of an extreme keto. And I'm calling it extreme keto because like even some people who do the keto diet still eat a lot of vegetables. They swear up and down that sugar and every other form of carbohydrates are the reason that people are obese or develop chronic disease, which is patently false. Chronic disease develops as a result of compounding variables, including but not limited to a poor diet, I don't know, maybe like eating an all meat, no vegetable diet, or conversely, eating a diet that's very, very high in sodium or excess added sugar, excessive alcohol intake, sedentary lifestyle, tobacco use, and genetics. Carbohydrates on their own are not inherently more harmful than any other macronutrient. For most humans, our bodies actually need a good amount of carbohydrates to help us make glucose in the most efficient way possible, because glucose is the primary fuel for pretty much every cell in your body. What's the name of the game here, you guys? Balance. So at this point, what are some of the risks of the carnivore diet? Because there are some, and by some, I mean a lot. Hypertension, high cholesterol, increased risk of certain cancers such as colorectal cancer, which is on the rise in young adults, and pancreatic cancer. Several nutrient deficiencies, for example, scurvy. Yes, scurvy is a real thing. It happens when you don't get enough vitamin C, which you get from plants, which you're not eating if you're only eating meat. Unlike what I mentioned before about in some people saying that carnivore helped cure their IBS or fix their GI issues. If you have an existing GI issue like chronic constipation, then carnivore could actually make things much, much worse for you because you're not eating any fiber. The American Institute for Cancer Research recommends eating no more than 18 ounces of cooked red meat a week. If you come across a TikTok or Instagram page of any carnivore diet zealot, they most certainly eat more than that. And on top of all that, what's worse is that they don't eat any plants. Many of them don't anyway. So let's now talk about the most glaring issue with the carnivore diet, the fact that it lacks plants. I have heard, and if you're watching this video, I'm sure you have heard countless times at this point from carnivore diet zealots that plants are bad for you, dietary fiber is unnecessary and does nothing in cancer prevention, you don't need plants, this plant is an anti-nutrient, blah, blah, blah.
Need fiber. Here's why. Number one, fiber is simply an indigestible carbohydrate. It plays no vital role in the body.
Here is your reminder that you do not need to eat vegetables to be healthy. Meat has all you need, and the nutrients are more bioavailable than in plants. So eat your steak.
All right, how much fiber do you have to eat on a meat-based elimination diet? I haven't had any significant fiber in my diet in about 7 years. You do not need to eat any fiber at all. It is a non-essential nutrient. It is not essential for life. It may not even be essential for good optimal health.
I had chronic constipation for my entire life until I started the carnivore diet. For the last year, I've had zero fiber but plenty of fat. And I'm finally not constipated for the first time in my life. Turns out fiber is completely unnecessary. Sure, it bulks up your stools, but if you're eating enough fat, then your bowels will move regularly anyway.
This information is absolutely, categorically, indisputably untrue. And them spreading this rhetoric is honestly just irresponsible. There are mountains of scientific research that point toward a diet rich in fiber and plants having an inverse association with colorectal cancer. And this research goes back years, you guys. And also, just so everybody knows, inverse in this context means basically opposing things. So when one goes up, the other goes down. Take this systemic review and meta-analysis from 2011. It aimed to investigate the association between dietary fiber intake and whole grains and risk of colorectal cancer. This research found that a high intake of dietary fiber, in particular from cereals and whole grains, was associated with a reduced risk of colorectal cancer. Take this study from 2015, and it found the same thing. They observed even more evidence that consuming a high fiber diet, particularly from grains and fruit, is associated with a reduced risk of colorectal adenoma and cancer. We can do this with other types of cancer too. This study from 2021 evaluated the associations of whole grains and dietary fiber intake with liver cancer risk and chronic liver disease mortality. This was a cohort cohort study, which recruited over 485,000 people between 1995 and 1996, and it followed up with them in 2011. That's about 15 and a half years that they followed these participants. In the 2011 follow-up, they identified 940 liver cancer cases and 993 deaths from chronic liver disease. Ultimately, this study concluded an inverse association between whole grain and dietary fiber intake with liver cancer incidence and chronic liver disease mortality in the United States population. High fiber intake was associated with lower risk of liver cancer and liver disease mortality. In this study, they found that the dietary fiber was particularly from vegetables, beans, and grains. Furthermore, a low fiber diet places a lot of environmental pressure on the cells and tissue of the colon and the stomach, esophagus, breast, prostate, pancreas, and the liver. So if you're eating 6 pounds of meat a day, hello. Furthermore, largely plant-based diets are associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease, several types of cancer, and all-cause mortality. Need I say more? Yes, I do, and I'm going to. Something to keep in mind is, in this context, plant-based doesn't always necessarily mean vegan or vegetarian. If you were to ask me, I would say that I'm an omnivore. I'm an omnivore because I eat everything. But I also could say that my diet is largely plant-based because when I'm putting together a meal, I prioritize plants on my plate. I eat several servings of plants every single day, but I also love fish and chicken and occasionally enjoy a good steak. So you don't have to go full vegan or vegetarian to be plant-based. Just eat more plants. Some people who are watching this who adhere to a vegan or vegetarian diet, I don't know, I feel like some people may disagree with that, but we can fight about it later. Colon cancer is the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths worldwide. Back in 2020, the American Cancer Society predicted that approximately 148,000 people would be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and approximately 53,000 of them would die from it. I think at this point, all of us can agree that cancer is truly an ugly and insidious disease. But personally, colorectal cancer kind of scares me more than others. Like I mentioned before, rates of colorectal cancer are increasing in young adults and they have been steadily over the last few decades, and science can't pinpoint why. And I find that absolutely terrifying. I'm sure most of you watching this who are subscribed, you also watch me for my anti-MLM content, and if you watch me for my anti-MLM content, I'm sure you probably know who Jessie Lee Ward is. I bring up colon cancer a lot. I'm sure we all kind of can't help but think about her, especially if you're watching this on my channel and you're a subscriber. She died of colorectal cancer after a very short battle where she ignored her physician's recommendations, which likely could have extended her life, which was honestly very sad. Around that time, another content creator I follow, he has nothing to do with like anti-MLM stuff, and his wife died of colorectal cancer, and she was less than 30 years old, and it just broke my heart for him and his family. Parasocial relationships are crazy because I don't know any of these people, but it affected me and it in a way made me fear my own mortality even more. I also kind of now have a mild phobia of developing colon cancer, as it's scary to me because both of these two women were around my age. Jessie Lee Ward was only a couple years older than me. I'm 31 years old. I'm not saying that the carnivore diet caused their colorectal cancer or the carnivore diet alone is a cause of colorectal cancer, because remember, scientists can't figure out the reason for the rise in colon cancer in young adults. But in the context of this conversation and knowing what we know about excessive meat intake and low fiber and low plant intake and the inverse risk it has on developing colorectal cancer, I feel that it's a reasonable conclusion that eating the carnivore diet with no plants probably doesn't help. Now, all of that being said, meat is not the enemy, unless there's a reason you can't eat it, obviously. I can think of a couple medical conditions in which people cannot consume meat. For most of us, meat is not the enemy. Meat, including red meat, is very nutrient dense, and it's an incredible source of B vitamins, iron, zinc, iodine, and protein. In fact, much of these things that our bodies need can only be obtained from eating meat. Unless you're not a meat eater, maybe you eat a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet, you still need those things, but you're probably taking a supplement. So you guys, what am I saying here? An all meat diet is very, very bad for your health. And I would also like to add that a poorly executed vegan or vegetarian diet is also very bad for your health. Now, what exactly do I mean by poorly executed? Let me explain that. There is a wrong way to go vegan or vegetarian. A lot of people, and I've seen this, decide that they want to go vegan or vegetarian, and then they just start living off of salads. And that Sounds healthy because yes, plants are excellent for your health, but it's actually not a healthy diet because it's not balanced. If all you do is eat salad, you can become dangerously deficient in a lot of things. You can develop a B12 deficiency, an iron deficiency. You can develop protein energy malnutrition. You can develop essential fatty acid deficiency. However, if you execute a vegan or vegetarian diet correctly and diversify the plants you eat, which include plants that have protein, that have fat, and supplement certain things like your B vitamins and iron, then you can be perfectly healthy eating a completely plant-based diet. I just want to put that out there. The word of the day, you guys, is balance. I already kind of gave you guys a sample of like my lunch, what I might eat, but the truth is there really is no best diet. And anyone who tells you that there is doesn't know what they're talking about. The best diet is a diet that meets all of your energy needs, that meets all of your nutrient needs, and you enjoy it. And for most humans, this typically means consuming a diet that's rich in whole grains, meats that you enjoy like maybe chicken or fish, and lots of plants like fruits and veggies. And also a healthy balanced diet also involves the fun stuff like coffee and tea. FYI, regular coffee and tea intake is associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality. Maybe a cookie or two every now and then because why not? They're delicious. Maybe a little bit of ice cream or a little bit of cake after dinner every now and then because why not? It's delicious. Completely eliminating or at least minimizing your alcohol consumption. Or maybe on a Friday night, you're like me, you don't really feel like cooking and maybe you order a pizza. Balance, you guys. Balance. I feel that so many people these days do not understand balance, and it's just not healthy. Something that I have observed that a lot of influencers love to do. They love to pick one compound or one ingredient from one food, demonize it like hell, even though it's a perfectly safe and perfectly fine food to consume. The reality of this, however, is if you want to be the healthiest human you can possibly be, it's actually better to look at your overall diet quality than it is to scrutinize every single little tiny individual ingredient. If you eat multiple servings of plants every single day, exercise 3 days a week, and eat a variety of other nutritious foods, then eating 1 or 2 Oreos or a piece of cake every now and then is not going to hurt you, okay? Do I need to say that louder for the people in the back? It's not going to hurt you, okay? The final message of the day. Eating a plant-rich diet that is high in fiber is associated with a lower risk of developing several types of cancer, including colorectal cancer, a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, and a lower risk of all-cause mortality. If you take one thing away from this video, please let it be this. Eat your damn vegetables. Phew! We did it. We did it, Adrian. We finally tackled carnivore. This was fun. Part of me is looking forward to all of the angry comments from the carnivore diet zealots telling me I'm wrong and telling me that I'm a shill for big pharma, even though I'm currently an unpaid dietetic intern and my job is to help keep people alive and well nourished while they're in my hospital. Fun times. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more related content, hit the subscribe button. Every now and then I do a deep dive into, whatever fad diet might be trending. I haven't done keto yet, if you could believe that. I mean, I basically just did keto. Alpha just sat down next to me. All right. She knows it's her time to be on camera, so I gotta wrap this up. And I'm gonna have to give the camera over to her because she just looks really cute right now. Thank you very, very much if you made it to the end of this video. If you made it to this point in the video, comment broccoli. Once again, a big thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more similar content, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all again in the next one. Queen Lemon, over and out. And here's the alpha. Oh, she do a big stretch. What? Okay, yes. Anything else you'd like to say? Now her and Onyx are about to start. Hey, get off that floor. These two, when they get into it, oh my god. Onyx, get her. What? Okay. Okay. What? Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say? Would you like to say bye? Alpha. Alpha, come say bye.